Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today, we have another great guest. Actually, it's a returning guest. Same guest, returning, different topic. But as our ongoing subscribers know, often on this podcast, I'll be sharing ideas and insights, best practices for building professional relationships and excelling at business networking. Occasionally, however, I will be interviewing subject matter experts, authors, speakers, thought leaders, social scientists, and these people will bring their information to us, what they know about the world, to help us build better relationships and better understand how we humans work. Today, as a returning guest, I have the amazing, incredible, one and only Mary Jenkins. Mary was on the program a couple of years ago when I first started doing interviews, and I had just met Mary at that point. She blew me away then. She always blows me away. But that conversation was really about the organization that she had founded, which is called Cancer Option Collaborative, COC for short. But recently, Mary has written a book called Destined to Overcome, and I wanted to get Mary on to talk about the book. Not the whole book. You got to go buy the book. I think you should buy the book. It's a quick read. But I want to get her on talking about overcoming, because overcoming is not just a cancer thing. It's a homeless thing. It's domestic abuse. It's losing a loved one. It's, we're all kind of battling those sorts of things right now. So Mary, welcome to the program.
Hi, Frank. Thank you for having me again. I am glad to be back with you.
Well, first thing, and we were talking about before we hit record, let me give you a chance to give a shout out to the person who inspired this. But what kicked this off? Everyone has that impetus. I'm going to write a book. It's, there's something.
Mm-hmm. I was not planning on writing a book like this. Most of the time people write their life story, which I haven't done that yet. But this is it's daily declarations. And the person, Frank Fabish, I love him. He is a 3-time cancer survivor. Mm-hmm. And the 3rd time when he was battling cancer, he reached out to me for some support. And I was like, I got you, Frank. I'm going to give you something, to sustain you during the time that you're going through treatment. So his treatment was going to be for 30 days. And I said, I'm going to give you something different every single day to challenge your way of being, because you're destined to overcome. And he was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Not realizing that what I was creating was the foundation for a book. And So with this book, it's a daily declaration. So every day we get to challenge the way we believe, because ultimately, regardless of what we're dealing with, like you said, cancer, domestic violence, homelessness, whatever it is, regardless of those things, we were destined to overcome.
Yeah. And I guess my way of thinking, the reason I wanted to have you on is our biggest relationship is with ourselves, and we can't do a great job with our business relationships or professional relationships unless we're at our best. And when we're battling these sorts of things, we're struggling. And so I think the whole notion, especially as we hopefully one day come out of this pandemic, this lockdown, we have a lot of people out there who are struggling, and they're not, you had shared the story about the person who hasn't been at any of the hair shows, the barber shows, which you do a lot with, in a couple of years. People are just kind of staying away and not being their biggest and best self.
Exactly. And so with this book, it's like when you talk about your relationship with yourself, if you don't see yourself as able to overcome, or if you don't see yourself as worthy, or you don't see yourself as able to make it, or there's so many of the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
If that is where your focus is on a daily basis, chances are you're probably going to walk away from the business, not going to write the book, get out of the relationship. There's so many things that will happen, and I'm sure people have heard, as a man thinketh, so is he. The way we think is the way we're going to be. And that's why this book is so important, because it's giving us tools so that we can think positively every day and then challenge when we think crazy.
Well, and what I enjoy about it is that you're a pastor. People should know that, but you have a spiritual aspect in here. But you also have somebody who's spiritual can read this, obviously, but people who aren't spiritual can still take things away from this book.
Absolutely. So the foundation of the book was, and you're right. So I've been in ministry for 30 years. I'm a national evangelist, and I get to share God's word. However, not everybody's trying to hear, "Thus saith the Lord" from Most High,
Right.
And I know that. And so in writing this book, I said, okay, I need to encourage my friend Frank, and I'm going to find a scripture that will encourage him, but then I'm going to break it down, because then let's really talk about it. Because it doesn't make sense for me to say, like on day one, the scripture is all things work together. Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. I could say that, but then let's really talk about what that really means. It's like all things work together for good. It's not saying the situation is good, because this pandemic, it's not good. But the reality of it is, there's a bunch of people that stepped out and started businesses that wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
There are people that now have relationships with people around the world thanks to being virtual that they wouldn't have had. And so in the midst of a horrible situation, there's some good. And so I'm like, let's talk about that. What are you dealing with in life that you don't think is a good thing? Okay, let's call it what is. These things are not good, and go from there.
Lots of lemonade out of there from a whole bunch of lemons.
Correct.
Well, and that's what I enjoy about what you've done here, is because I've never battled cancer, knock wood. Certainly not 3. You haven't done 3 either. You're only a 2-timer.
I'm a 2-timer.
And it's going to stay that way. But we all battle things. And I think if anybody, if you can be honest with yourself out there, I think we all battle with things. I have battled with things through the lockdown. Nothing huge, but it's what I have found is that it's in shoring up lots of other people, and you're the same way. You get exhausted, right? It's like, all right, I'm tired, but you can't be tired. You gotta go back at it, and gotta find your moments.
That's when you have the conversation with yourself, the relationship with yourself. I mean, for me, and I probably have shared this before, I have my daily confession. I've got 2. So I have my daily confession for meeting people. So I expect to meet someone new every single day.
Right.
But then when life gets crazy, I get to remind myself that I am a world-changing, generous, inspiring woman. So, regardless of what happens, I know who I am in spite of what's going on. And that's what I'm hoping that the readers of the book will get that. Like, okay, this is going on, but I'm still destined to overcome.
Yeah.
And that they have the conversation, because this is just the first book of multiple ones. So volume 2 and volume 3 and 4 and 5 and on are going to be specific. So, there's daily declarations for parenting. Yeah. Daily declarations for couples, daily declarations for singles, daily declarations for prosperity and wealth, daily declarations for healing, because we're all dealing with something.
What's your favorite day in here? I know it's like asking you what your favorite kid is, but I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I love them all, but I will say today is the 4th. Well, today is the 14th.
Okay.
So I'd say the 14th.
Okay. Nothing compares. Romans 8:18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us.
That is true. Nothing compares. There's so much beauty that comes out of us, but oftentimes in our suffering, we don't even see it. I
Yeah.
mean, I think back to when I was diagnosed with cancer. No one could have told me that I would later on talk about cancer with a smile. There aren't too many people that do that. But I can say today that if I had never been diagnosed with cancer, chances are I wouldn't have started the organization.
Right.
So the people that I, raised money for to help them pay their bills wouldn't have gotten help. The people that I've been able to encourage just so that they know that they can make it probably wouldn't happen. This book likely would not have happened.
Yeah. No, I think that's, you're a 2-time cancer survivor. And the beautiful thing is that you had the opportunity to be a 2-time cancer survivor. Like Frank, he had the opportunity, meaning he survived it the first time, right? I mean, so yeah. There is that silver lining in everything. And I think that's a hard thing for people to see. We joke about it, not you and I, but in general, we joke, rich people problems, right? First world problems. I mean, they're everywhere.
Right.
Geez, I'm embarrassed. My cell phone doesn't match up to Johnny's, right? Well, suck it up. Who cares?
Correct. There's so many other things out there going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else are you doing with this book? You're getting on the speaking circuit?
Yes. So now I'm on the speaking circuit with this. And because it's not like, it's a faith-based book, but it's not a religious book.
Right.
There are companies that are asking questions about it. Like, can we use it for our employees? If you want to, because all it will do is help them with the way that they show up in life. Because ultimately, we all get to make a decision on when we wake up, when we've had the breath of life, when we wake up, we all get to decide what that day is going to look like.
Yeah.
In the midst of everything. And, for a person that's going through something, this can be their answer, just to have that. So there are companies that are asking, like, can you come and can you talk about it? Can you speak? Can you share your story? And it always ends up going back to your cancer journey. Can you share your cancer journey? Because my cancer journey is so different than most people.
Right.
And that they're like, we have no idea. And then getting to educate people about where money does and doesn't go in the world of cancer, that's a whole thing in itself. And so my whole busy life has become more busy.
Right. No, it's your tragedies have become a blessing for others is really what it boils down to. And it's best way to get a hold of you. This is going to be funny because I look at about the author and Mary Jenkins is on Facebook, no big shock, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse. You're not on the moon. We know that. You're everywhere else. I get notifications from Clubhouse all the time. Mary Jenkins is on Clubhouse. Met some great people on there. That's, I guess,
oh my question. Yes. I mean, the one of the most like profound people that I met, actually there's two. I'll say Forbes Riley, having had the opportunity to meet her, and people are like, who's Forbes Riley? Well, the lady that worked with Jack LaLanne back in the day to sell the juicers, and then went on to create a exercise device where she sold I think it was 2 billion in 20 minutes, which is amazing. What I didn't know is that her parents battled cancer. And she heard me speaking in a room and she was like, I want to talk to you. And that conversation opened the door to me to a whole new network of people. So there's her. And then we all have heard of Grant Cardone, which I never imagined an opportunity to actually speak with him. And with him, so those that know me know that I'm a veteran and that my husband died on active duty. And so earlier this year, Grant came into a room to say thank you to people who had served in the military. And I said, my husband died on active duty. And he said, who said that? And I said, Mary Jenkins. And he's like, where's Mary Jenkins? And I was like, well, if you scroll down, because there had to been like 1,000 people in the room. Yeah. He had to find me. And when he found me, and he was like, wow, your husband died and you're a cancer specialist. So he read my bio. And then what was so amazing is he offered me the opportunity to go to Cordon U for their sales program. And if you look that up, that's like $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to bless this with you because of what you're doing. And maybe it can help you better what you're doing. And I was like, okay. And I had no idea what I was getting into, but it has been amazing. And, there's those people. And then there's the people that I never thought I would have met just because we're from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And, I now have a sister friend that lives in Melbourne, Australia, who, she had an amazing story in her own. She was part of the Summit of Inspiration that we did. And it's like, I am pro Clubhouse. They need to hire me to talk about Clubhouse because everyone needs to be on Clubhouse,
right,
in my opinion.
All right. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? Or a way? I know.
There are, you read the ways, definitely on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those ways. Yep. But you can also email me. My email is mary@thecoccares.org. I'm really me. So, my phone number is 614-805-1253. And that's my real cell phone number, which people are like, you're the only person that gives their real cell phone number out. And I'm like, because I want people to be able to reach me, especially if they know someone that's battling cancer and that person needs help, or if they're like, you know what, I don't want to give to the well-known cancer organizations. I want to do something different and help the people. Can we talk? Absolutely.
Well, that's an important distinction that I want to bring forth and we'll close up on. The well-known cancer organizations are wonderful organizations. They are devoted to cancer research and they've made huge strides. Your organization is about helping people meet financial needs when they're in active treatment. Totally different, a totally different vibe. Right. And that's there's so much money going into research. And again, it's good things, but if you're losing your car and you can't get to chemo or losing your house, that's a different level of caring. It's kind of an immediate. It's an immediate stop the bleeding sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So
because there are people making a decision of whether or not to continue treatment because they can't figure out how to pay a bill, which, or they can't figure out how to pay the copay. So they've started treatment, but they can't go to work because they're sick. But then they have a copay and can't figure out how to get the copay. And they reach out to the well-knowns and the well-knowns are like, we don't fund that. And So they eventually get to us and we're like, yes, we will help with COBRA payments. Yes, we do copays. Yes. As long as we can raise money, we will help the people.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you do. We'll get you on again here soon. You got more books coming. We have more to talk about, right?
Yes, we do. And thank you so much for having me, Frank. It is a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.